So why do so many people hate alcohol? They've just had bad vodka, a really warm beer, but there's a reason why that happens. Straight whiskey at a house party, or someone just yelling, "Take the bloody shot." Most people who say they don't like alcohol have never actually had a good drink. Let's be honest, alcohol has at least once in your life or more made you make a really disgusting face. But there's a reason why that happens. Watch the entire video to know more. Most people who say they don't like alcohol have never actually had a good drink. They've just had bad vodka, a really warm beer, straight whiskey at a house party, or someone just yelling, "Take the bloody shot." And so if alcohol has ever tasted like medicine, petrol, or regret, this video is for you. So why do so many people hate alcohol? Alcohol is an acquired taste, and most of us were introduced to it really badly. Personally, I was introduced to beer first by my dad, and if you can relate to this, you know that it absolutely tasted like shit. And this is where the problem is, because we may not actually hate alcohol, but the first experience around it. Another big reason is how alcohol is usually introduced. So if you're drinking faster than you should because your friends are drinking things you didn't choose and pretending you're fine when you're not, you just really want to fit in. And then there's the taste itself. Alcohol has bitterness, sharpness, sometimes even medicinal notes, which if you are not used to, is genuinely off-putting. So instead of "this is interesting," your reaction is more like, "why does this taste like something I should not be drinking?" Plus, most first drinks aren't balanced properly. There's not enough ice, bad mixers hai, alcohol warm hai, ya fir log direct shots pee rahe hain, and it's just a lot of regret. So let me know in the comments below which was your first drink and your experience around it. Now, let's get to the usual suspects. First up, whiskey. Whiskey is not beginner friendly, and I don't care what everyone says. It is strong, it is dry, and sometimes it is smoky. And for a new drinker, it tastes like nail paint remover, which is extremely hot, spicy at times, and also sometimes battery acid. So if you are a beginner and you really want to try it, I would suggest skip the scotch and go for bourbons. Bourbon is made mostly from at least 51% corn, rye and malted barley, which is why it tastes softer and sweeter, a little caramelly and slightly vanilla-like. Some of the brands that you should try: Jim Beam, known for sweet caramel and vanilla notes, along with subtle woody grain and oak. This makes it soft on the palate and approachable even for first-time drinkers. Another bourbon is Buffalo Trace, a smooth, approachable bourbon that's easy for beginners because it's rounded and soft on the palate. You'll notice sweet caramel, vanilla, and gentle spice with subtle hints of orange. Then, Woodford Reserve. Woodford Reserve is a richer bourbon but still very approachable. You get cleaner notes of vanilla, caramel, and toffee, and oak with softer layers of dried fruit, a bit of orange and warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. Overall, काफी smooth है, slightly creamy है, and has a long finish, which is why it works well both for sipping slowly and in cocktails like an old-fashioned. Also, whiskey is not meant to be chugged, guys. Please stop doing that if you are. Pour it in a nice rocks glass and add a splash of water and let the flavors open up. Next up, gin. Ab gin thoda tricky hai, and it's not very beginner friendly. I know gin has this reputation of being light and fresh, but काफी लोगों के लिए जिनको alcohol नहीं पसंद, gin can actually be worse than whiskey because gin is very aromatic, very herbal, and sometimes really bitter. And for a new drinker, gin can honestly taste like cough syrup, mouth freshener, Ayurvedic medicine, or straight up perfume, and that's because gin is produced mainly with juniper berries and other botanicals. So instead of sweetness, what hits you first is bitterness, sharp herbal notes, and the alcohol vapor that's in the liquid. And which is why a lot of people who take one sip of gin go like, "Yup, not for me." And now if you hate alcohol but you want to try gin, the rule is very simple. कभी भी gin को अकेले judge मत करो, guys. How you mix it matters a lot. But before we get to that, here are some of the beginner gins you must try. First, Stranger & Sons. Stranger & Sons is a premium Indian gin from Goa, and it's known for using Indian ingredients, things like Gondoraj lime, coriander, black pepper, nutmeg, mace, and it's also very citrusy. Next, Cherrapunji gin. Coming all the way from Meghalaya, Cherrapunji gin is a great beginner's level gin that not only makes a drink taste great, but also make you feel good about yourself. Following the route of sustainability, this pretty bottle is reusable, it's made of copper, and it uses purified rainwater and not groundwater, and uses botanicals such as Khasi mandarin, Khasi pepper, sorcerer, wild peppercorn, and eastern Himalayan juniper. You can expect citrus forward, crisp with juniper, spice, hints, smoke, and floral notes. Next, Jaisalmer gin. Jaisalmer gin works well for beginners because it's structured but not aggressive. The juniper is present but it's balanced out by citrus notes like orange and lemon, so it doesn't feel medicinal. There are warm spices and subtle tea notes that make the flavor super interesting, but the finish stays clean and dry and not sharp. So if you want a gin that feels refined and smooth without being overpowering, Jaisalmer gin is a solid place to start, especially in a well-balanced gin and tonic. Now, this is the most important part. Gin is not meant to be drunk straight, especially as a beginner. It needs dilution, it needs balance, and it also needs a mixer that really complements the botanicals. The safest place to start is always a gin and tonic. Tonic helps open up the citrus and herbal notes in gin and takes away that sharp medicinal edge. But if tonic feels too bitter for you, and for many beginners it does, ginger ale is a great alternative. I would recommend my personal favorite, Jade Forest Ginger Ale. It's slightly sweet, a little spicy, and much easier on the palate, and it softens the bitterness and makes the drink feel more approachable. Stick to a simple ratio, 1 part gin, 3 parts tonic or ginger ale with lots of ice. And if you still don't like it, it's completely okay. The world isn't ending. Now let's go all the way to Caribbean and talk about rum. And if you're Indian, the chances are your first experience with rum was Old Monk. And unlike whiskey or gin, this is one category where a lot of us don't really hate it. Old Monk sweet hai, smooth hai, warming hai, and honestly काफी comforting hai. And which is why so many people who say they hate alcohol will still say, yeah, but rum is okay. And that's because rum is made from sugarcane, so it naturally leans sweeter. There's less bitterness, less dryness, and way less medicinal hit. So in a strange way, rum becomes a gateway alcohol for a lot of Indians, something that we feel familiar with, easy, and it is non-intimidating. But here is the flip side. If your only reference point for rum is Old Monk, you might think all rum is either very sweet or very heavy. And that's not true at all. Because beyond that, rum is clean, balanced, slightly sweet, and incredibly beginner friendly. Especially if you choose the right style and mix it well. Here are my top 3 picks for you. First up, Kamekara 3-year-old. Kamekara is a rum that's interesting even before you taste it. It's made from pure cane juice, not molasses, which already makes it feel cleaner and more refined. It's aged and presented like sipping spirit, not something meant to be downed in mixers. So if you like rum because of Old Monk but you want something that feels more polished and intentional, Kamekara is a great bottle to move to. It has the warmth and sweetness, but in a way that feels balanced and grown up, and not heavy. Bacardi Lemon. Bacardi Lemon is one of the easiest white rums to like if you don't like alcohol. This citrus-forward profile takes attention away from the alcohol itself, so it feels very light and very refreshing, and especially works well with soda and tonic. Third, Eek Rum. Eek is a rum agricole, which basically means it's made from fresh sugarcane juice and not molasses. And because of that, it tastes cleaner, lighter, more grassy. For beginners, this works because ये इतना sweet या sticky नहीं है. And if traditional dark rum feels heavy, Eek is a good pick, but unfortunately only available in Goa right now. Next, vodka. Vodka is basically a blank canvas. It doesn't have any strong flavor of its own, which is why it's called neutral. The problem is, if you drink it straight, it can feel harsh, burning. It's plain alcohol, but mixed right, it's super easy to drink. Soda with lime, a splash of juice, or even ginger ale, suddenly it becomes very light, refreshing, and not scary at all. Quite the intimidating drink for a beginner, we have been made aware of vodka through movies, and they've clearly not done a good job. Because it's always followed with a terrible hangover the next day if had too much. So if you still want to enjoy vodka and give it a chance, here are my 3 picks. First, Absolute Vodka. Absolute is one of the cleanest, most reliable vodkas out there. It's smooth, slightly grainy, and it doesn't have that sharp chemical hit that a lot of cheaper vodkas do. Second, Grey Goose. Yeah, it's expensive, but it's expensive for a reason. Grey Goose is extremely smooth, almost creamy on the palate with a very little burn. Third, Belvedere. Belvedere sits somewhere between Absolute and Grey Goose. It has a soft mouthfeel with subtle vanilla and peppery notes, but nothing aggressive again. It's refined without being intimidating, and if you're someone who wants a vodka that tastes very premium, this is a great pick. Now let's talk about tequila, because this is where a lot of people actually decide if they hate alcohol. And for most people, tequila is literally salt, shot, lime, a lot of panic and horrible hangovers, and that's unfortunate. Because tequila is actually one of the most beautiful spirits out there if you drink it right. Tequila is made from blue agave and not cactus. And good tequila is naturally sweet, earthy, peppery, and surprisingly smooth. And if tequila has ever tasted like fire to you, you were probably drinking a mixto tequila, which means only 51% agave and the rest sugar alcohol. And if you're a beginner, always look for 100% agave on the bottle. Start with a reposado tequila and not a blanco. Reposado is aged briefly in oak, which softens the sharp edges and adds a little vanilla and warmth. The beginner-friendly tequilas in India are 1. The Don Julio Reposado, the Petrol Reposado, and the 1800 Reposado. Tequila is not meant to be a shot always. Sip it. Add a cube of ice if you like, or mix it gently with soda and lime. And if you want to know more about tequila, check out the link in the description below. Now, before I wrap up, let me say this clearly. If you don't like alcohol, it's completely fine. You don't need to force yourself to drink. You don't need to build tolerance. You don't need to prove anything. But if you want to enjoy alcohol, and if you haven't yet, you can start slow and at your own pace. Alcohol is an acquired taste, yes, but it is also a learned experience. When done right, it's about choosing what actually works for you. So whether you end up loving rum, tolerating vodka, enjoying gin only in cocktails, or realizing tequila is actually your thing, it's all valid. Let me know in the comments what was your first drink and did it make you love alcohol or swear it off completely. And if you want us to break down another spirit, wine, beer, mezcal, cocktails, or even mocktails, you know where to find us. Drink better, drink smarter, and stop pretending you like things you don't. Cheers.